Welcome back, Mobile Home Park Nation. Ferd here again today with another episode of the Mobile Home Park Lawyer Podcast. My guest today, I'm glad to have him on here. He's recently a new mobile home park owner-operator. He's getting his feet wet. He's out of New York City, but he's like many, he doesn't want to invest in mobile home parks in New York City or New York State. So he's moved to the next couple states over, but we'll hear more of his story here in the coming minutes. Please help me welcome Joshua Diaz. Joshua, thanks for coming on.
Hey, thanks for having me, Ferd. How are you doing today?
Hey, no complaints, man. Beautiful sunny day here in Kansas City, which is rare this week. It's been raining like crazy, but all good here. What about you?
I wish I had what you had. We just got past the heat wave. It was pretty rough.
Yeah.
We hit what is it, 105 yesterday? Like 50% humidity. Yeah, it's and I had to work, so it's a little rough. I'm glad it's a little bit over now. It's the 70s. So,
oh wow, that's a big drop. So good deal.
It was pretty wild.
Yeah. Well, great, man. Well, I know you a little bit. Tell our audience may or may not know you, so maybe tell us a little bit more about your background and how you chose MHP and how you got started, and we'll dive into some of your first projects and lessons learned.
Yeah, sure. My background is a simple, average blue-collar guy. I currently have a full-time job in security, union guy, average salary 40K. Nothing really special. I've been in New York City my whole life. Apartment living is pretty much all I grew up with. As far as how I got to where I am now, it's I can primarily thank Bigger Pockets for that. That started the real estate itch in general. Bought my first duplex because of it about 4 years ago. Decided putting a lot of work, but there's not so much coming out of it. I mean, it's doing okay, but I'll need to get a lot more of those in order to make a real impact. So I started looking around, looked at apartment buildings, strip malls, that sort of thing. And the podcast actually kept mentioning mobile home parks once or twice. And the first time I didn't really think much of it. Everyone has the stigma, and I had it as well. I was like, oh, I don't want a trailer park. It's all the mess with that. But then they kept talking about it, and I really started doing some serious research, and I decided this model, especially the tenant-owned home model, is right up my alley. It fits with my schedule and everything. So I decided to jump in, asked around for more information, found some other podcasts from Ryan Norris, found yours, just started digging in on the commute to and from work. I just listened to everything. I probably went through at least 3 a day, just coming and going on the commute. Yeah.
That's awesome.
It helps when they're in 30-minute blocks because it's processed a little bit easier. Some of them like kind of long with the other ones. But yeah, I just did as much as I could, did research for over a year, and decided to jump in with the help of Ryan and one of his mentorship programs. I joined that. And once I was out pretty much in last year in November, made my first attempt. Used you for that, as you know, and it didn't really work out. Then I went to the second attempt, and that's the one that stuck. And now I'm an owner of a small 15-space mobile home park.
Man, good deal. No, I think it's great that takes offers. You gotta make offers to find them to stick, and you gotta find a deal that's right for you. A lot of guys. I was talking to some guys earlier today, and then like, what's the best deal you did? And I'm like, the best deal I did is the deal I didn't do that I shouldn't have done, because you get 4 really good deals, and then you blow it all in the 5th one. First 4 don't feel so good anymore. So I'm just try to get a base hit on every bat. Just don't strike out that way. And then that's a more conservative approach, but I think it's what works for most people, especially as you got like you got a full-time job. Okay, probably not going to take the deal that's 200 pads. It's got to redo the sewer, and 100 pads are vacant, and 50 people are sex offenders, and there's a lot of hair on that deal, right? So getting a couple under your belt, that's good. So tell us, as you've been in the business now for a little bit, what are some lessons learned? I mean, I always tell people the first 3 months is the hardest, and then the next 3 is still hard. And then it starts to get like, okay, I think I can do this. Maybe I'll even do it again. But it's always, in my opinion, even now we buy a new park, it's like, oh, here we go. First 3 months, sub-meter, impose rules, demo houses, get rid of bad tenants, increase the rent. Here we go. And that's just the hardest part. But that's my experience. Tell me more what you've learned so far.
Well, I'm gonna go to both of the parks that I attempted. the failure and this one, because they both taught me very different things that I think are super valuable. Going to that first one, it was 104 spaces. So I tried to start big, and that was my first lesson. I think I tried to go a little too big, too fast, and I went a little bit over my head, which is fine. You got to go at your own pace. It was about half empty. A quarter of the homes needed to be rehabbed. I found out pretty much at the last minute there was some abandonment homes because someone just died in one. So there's a lot to tackle right off the bat. And well, on top of that, I didn't have the money. So I was also trying to find some partners at the same time. So there was too many moving pieces. And that would be the main takeaway from that one. Like just starting out, you probably don't want to go for too many, you don't want to make it too complex. And that's what I try to do. And ultimately, that's why I backed out. There was just too much too fast. And I decided I was probably going to mess up somewhere major. There was a lot, so much work that had to be done with this. So that was mostly that one. The one I have now, I'm currently in the process of pretty much redoing all the leases. The last owner, I don't know if it was just something they typed up themselves or just found something offline, but yeah, I'm in touch with a lawyer now and a PA about the leases, and he pretty much told me it's not really legal. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to send my own out, via certified mail and all that, and make sure you get on board, because if anything happens, God forbid, it's not gonna end well. So it's similar to what I had with the duplex, which I still have now. It's notice a lot of things the previous owner did. It's either cut corners or they took it way too easy. I mean, I'm laid back, but not that laid back. So there's a lot of little things to fix, and there's a lot of logistics to go through. So for anyone who is getting their first parking one, you want to take a look at that, because there's so many little things you can easily miss, and I've missed a couple before this guy told me what was up. So there are still a lot of pieces, even though it's smaller, but at least it's more manageable than trying to go too big. But you just gotta look out for all these little things. So I'm just gonna go through it one thing at a time.
No, I think that's wise. I mean, I tell people all the time, this is not an easy business. It's not. I don't call it the real. I don't call it the real estate business. I call it the operations business, the management business. Mm-hmm. It's very management intensive, and you got to have systems. You got to have checklists, or you will miss stuff. And you're gonna learn. You're gonna miss stuff anyway. It's just you want to try not to miss the big stuff. You want to try to for example. Yeah, make sure you've got a valid lease, right? Because you don't want to maybe have a problem. Make sure you don't have life safety issues, right? Yeah. There's a lot of different moving parts, but that's good that you've done it right from the beginning, as far as get educated, work with other professionals, and then tackle something that is manageable, and then just a little bit at a time. You're not going to turn around everything in a day, and I think that's all right,
Yeah.
So go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, it's not sorry. I was just gonna say, like you said, just surround yourself with professionals. One of the first things I did was join the Pennsylvania Mobile Manufacturer Housing Association, and they gave me all the information for the Pennsylvania lawyer I'm using now, and they have a wealth of resources that I can always go to. So it's, never be afraid to ask for help, or never be afraid to ask. Period. You just don't know what you don't know.
No, I think that's right. And I see you on other forums on Facebook and LinkedIn, since I know you're also connecting with people on there. Yeah. That's a good thing to do, is network with other operators. When I got started, if those things were available, I didn't recognize and I didn't use them. It's like, I didn't know anybody else who was operating. I go to the same hometown, like, oh, you got some mobile home parks, go call some other people. And like, these people aren't people to learn from. They've been doing it for 50 years the same way. Like, how do you guys sub-meter water? They're like, what do you mean? Like, you're not going to sub-meter water. Like, never heard of that, So right. There's definitely good places you can get that kind of information, get that kind of networking, and it's definitely important, especially, when you get started and you got a small team, you got a smaller budget, you can't afford to hire a regional manager with 5 years experience, right? You need to learn it yourself, and you need to try to get it for free resources. And then you do one, goes okay, you get an itch to another one, right? And then you continually get better, and that's important. What would you say is the most surprising thing that positive that you didn't expect when you got in, when you're thinking about getting into business? What has surprised you that's better, and what has surprised you that's worse If you can think, I'm putting in your spot, but can you think of anything you're
Yeah,
like, oh,
I mean, a good positive would be this mobile home park I have now. Everyone is super great. I mean, I've heard that most residents are like more laid back type, but as far as like working with me, the guy I have there who's the acting manager now, he's been living there for about 16 years. Um, this is the kind of guy who would give you his shirt off his back, and I wasn't really expecting that. I mean, yeah, I was expecting a cordial relationship, but this guy like goes beyond, and he takes care of everything. And he's like, "Oh, don't worry, you should text me, call me anytime." And it's like, I was a little surprised by that. It's like, wow, this is like a down to earth guy here, and I just wasn't expecting it.
that's good, man. Yeah, finding good management and good maintenance personnel is always a challenge, and when you find them, you really appreciate them because it's hard. It's not easy. It's like, oh my gosh, this guy's the best thing that sliced bread. Then a lot of times you're like, is there anyone here that can even read the water meter or that can even post a notice? Sometimes yes, sometimes no.
Yeah, the funny thing is like the old owner like tried to warn me about him, like, oh, watch this guy. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I'm sort of like watching and like I don't get any bad vibes or anything like that. And then I found out later him and the previous owner had a blowout over something else. So like, oh, that's just something personal between them. That has nothing to do with how he's running the park and taking care of things. So yeah, it's you gotta trust but verify. That's the saying, right? Just trust but verify. It's like, okay, I'll trust the old owner. I mean, they've had the park for decades, but at the same time, when something doesn't seem right, you gotta investigate. So I did, and
It's interesting when you hear these stories like this. And we just bought a park in mid-Missouri a month ago, and we hired our park greeter who lives in the park, and this guy's name's Buddy. And half people say, "Oh, Buddy's great. He's been here forever. Everybody knows Buddy. He knows everything about the park. He knows where the sewer lines need to be fixed and where they don't." And then I have other people say, "You guys are hiring Buddy. Buddy is a disease. Buddy is a problem. He's the worst ever." And then I asked the old seller, "What do you think of Buddy?" And he's like, "Buddy was my manager for years. Buddy's horrible." Like, okay, but I'm like, well, which is it? And I'm like, Buddy seems amazing. So it's, but again, like watching him, like, what's the deal? And it's not like is he stealing? Did he steal from the last guy's thing? But for us, like, he doesn't control the money. Like, he can't steal from me.
no.
I mean, he seemingly is not walking around drunk and driving heavy equipment. And like, what's the problem? No one's accused him of any sort of inappropriate behavior or breaking into a home or chasing women or something like that. Like, what's wrong with Buddy? And rumor, personality, who knows, right? The person that has violations doesn't like the guy that issues violation notices. So it could be that. So it's important to kind of keep your head on a swivel, keep a constant review. But sometimes you got to give people the benefit of the doubt. They watch them closely. But so far, this guy, I'm like, this guy's good. What is it's been a month. There's no problems. There's only good. What am I, unless he's going to later come to me and ask for permission to get the rent paid in cash, which I'm not going to let him do. I feel comfortable with him, right? So it sounds like you got a guy similar to that is valuable to you.
Yeah, for sure. And with my park manager, pretty much he's friends with every single resident in there. Well, except for one who's well, we can talk about that too if you want. That's a sudden challenge comes out of nowhere. But as far as the manager goes, like, he's friends with everyone, every single resident that I've been in contact with now, and they're all pretty much senior citizens. So when they're laid back, they're laid back. But yeah, they're like, oh, that's my friend. Like, one of them said, oh, that's my best friend. Like, he takes care of us and all of that. So if I listened and just got rid of him on drop of a hat, I probably had some serious problems. I would have had a revolt probably, because they sing his praises. So I'm glad I didn't go by just the first thing I heard. So it's always double check everything.
Right, you have to get the second opinion. That makes sense, from getting bids on tree trimming to failed sewer lines, giving people a second chance.
Yeah, for sure.
What other tips do you have for other people kind of in similar situations to you, where they're coming from regular day job, looking to invest on the side, looking to jump into a new deal, what advice can you give from your experiences?
Uh, be open to being creative, because a lot of how I even got this park and the funding for it was being creative. Um, I borrowed money from family, which I'm currently in the process of paying back little by little. So yeah, private lenders, family, friends who are willing to do something like that. Not saying that they have to sign, on the loan for you or anything like that, but if you can do that, starting small, definitely. Like I said, you don't want to go too big and get yourself in a mess, even if you can afford it, which I couldn't. And basically, if you have to do something else to build up to it, do that. Like I said, I started 4 years ago with the duplex, and it's appreciated pretty well. I've just refinanced out of that, and that's where most of the money came from. So it wasn't even something related to mobile home parks, but it ultimately helped me in my goal. So just explore all the avenues you can, because you never know what can lead where or what sticks. Don't be so rigid. That'd be the best thing I can tell you on that.
No, I think that's good advice. I think in talking about your duplex, I've had duplex. I still have a couple duplexes actually, but you can learn skills from duplex business. You can bring mobile home park business. A lot of it doesn't carry.
Oh yeah.
But a lot of it does. In your case, money of it carried over. But you're dealing with leasing, dealing with contractors, dealing with showings, dealing with vacancy, dealing with repairs, dealing with banks, a lot of that will carry over. So no, I think it's important to whatever background you've got, see what some people, if you're a dentist, you're probably not going to bring as many skills as if you were a general contractor. But the dentist undoubtedly has skills also that'll be beneficial in the next business operation. So I'm a big fan of, look at your past, bring what you can. If you don't have enough, well, then use what you can, and or figure out where your blind spots are, and either hire it out or partner up.
Yeah. And you can learn as well. To this day, I've never used a property manager. Everything I've stumbled through it. I've hit brick walls and bashed through it with my head. It's all the experiences from that duplex onward. You just got to do it. You can learn and read all you want, but it doesn't really come to you until you actually do it and see what happens. So that's what I feel.
That's a good point. I've got friends that'll ask me like, "Hey, I want to get in this business. I got a full-time job. Should I hire a property manager?" This is for doing a couple single family or duplex. I'm like, look, at some point you're going to want to hire a property manager, because property manager is not that much fun, but also you can't scale unless you hire other people. But
right.
In the beginning, there's no way I would outsource it. I would be the guy to change the locks and paint the doors and mow the grass, and just to get a feel for that, move in the apartment, do the showings, answer the calls, organize, schedule the plumber, meet the plumber. And it kind of sucks, but you get a feel for it. You get a feel for it, which makes you really more empathetic with your future property management staff. Like, I know what it's like to get the tenant to call you and yell at you, cuss you out. I know what it's like to meet the vendor and he doesn't show up. Okay, and that's not fun, right? And when you experience that, you're like, you know what? I should probably appreciate my property management staff, my future park managers, park readers more, because remember back in the day when I did that crap? Well, they're doing that's all the time, and holy cow. It just gives you a different perspective, right?
Yeah. It helps you build the systems that you can later use to scale up with in the first place. That's how I have my system now. It's mostly Google Drive and a file cabinet. It's small, but it's something that works, that I put together from everything I've learned. And it's tell you what you were just saying reminds me of a funny story from the duplex. I have gotten that 12 a.m. call in the middle of the night saying, "Oh, my pipe in the basement just burst and it's currently flushing right now," on a Sunday. This is on a Sunday. Guess what plumbers don't do on a Sunday? I scrambled and reached out to an uncle who used to be a former contractor, and he happened to know someone who actually did a personal favor to have a plumber come out later that Sunday, when normally they'd be like, "You're out of luck."
Wow.
So use your connections. That's another thing. If you have connections, use them, make friends, family, and you never know. Ask. I didn't know my uncle was a contractor for 30 years. He apparently built a whole bunch of houses up in Middletown, New York. I would have no idea if I didn't, tell him about the business. Like, "Oh yeah, I just bought this house here." Like, "Oh, did you know I used to build houses there?" Like, no. I didn't know that. Well, I do now.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, he's great.
That's great. It reminds me of what my dad used to do for situations like that. When we buy a house, he would put like an orange, like a little sticker you see on like a Christmas gift or something. He would
Oh
put
yeah.
on a string an orange sticker, and it would say master water shut off or gas shut off or whatever else he wanted to identify. He'd hang it right there from the pipe, so that because there's all these pipes and nozzles and where's the vent and all this crap. And people in the average tenant, or even me or you, would not even know. But he'd get in there and look, and he'd label these things so that a situation like that, he could tell the resident, go find the orange tag, turn it off. It's the water shut off. And what that would happen sometimes, what you would do is you'd recognize there wasn't a water shut off. It was at the street on the city main. We're like, okay, that's a problem. So you could tell the city's going to turn it off. You could install the shut off valve. In mobile homes, man, especially this last winter, it was so cold in the Midwest. We had, several lots where they didn't have a functional shut off valve. So now I'm like, I need to make sure the shut off valve on every single lot, because if the pipe bursts, in which case they did several times for freezing, I can't turn the water off unless I turn off the whole park. Well, I got to give notice to do that, and I want to make sure I do it right, and inconveniences everybody else, and just a big pain. So, yeah, that's just another lesson learned here that we stumbled on accidentally. Is just label, assess in the beginning what you got and what you don't, and then label it. And I've learned to look underneath the homes to see what the underbelly looks like, and is there proper insulation, is there proper vapor barrier, is the skirting good, and these sort of things that are not real, in most cases are not going to be deal breakers when you're underwriting a deal, right. But the things you can uncover in your due diligence that you can later remedy early on in the ownership cycle, so that the big problem never happens. It's just basically preventative maintenance, right?
Oh yeah.
It's one of those, you don't look at it until it's a problem. And I've had houses that don't have water heaters. I didn't think to open the closet and look at you with a water heater. I'm just like, of course it has a water heater. Well, no, it doesn't. No, poof, $1,000. When it happened 4 or 5 times, like, man, I would have paid 5,000 less for this part.
Yeah.
Diligence is the mother of good luck, right?
Yep, and that's not just looking at papers and reports. It's making those phone calls. I pretty much called every single contractor who serviced that park and got their information from their end. And that's how I also found out like all the additional services they can do to make life a little bit easier when the time comes. The same guy that does the gravel for this park, that I'm gonna get that paved eventually, but right now he just fills in with gravel. He also does the snow removal. The owner was using someone else that I think was a little more expensive, but if this same company can do it for a more reasonable rate, yeah, why not? But I wouldn't have known that if I didn't ask.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, it's always good to find good vendors, and yeah, a lot of these guys do more than one thing. It's just finding guys reliable and has insurance or signs a waiver, or you have the insurance to cover them for things like liability. That's always a concern. I've got one park in Des Moines where the road system is such that it's just down and back, straight shot. There's no turnaround.
Oh, I see.
There's no loop. So most of the trash companies wouldn't do the work, because you can't turn a truck around. They don't feel like backing up all the way onto a busy street or backing down in all the way. So I was like, crap, I never thought about that before, that you can't get a trash company. So I had to find some little small time player with a pickup truck and a trailer to pick up the trash by hand. And lesson learned. Well, now I know next time I see a little street with a straight shot, I might have to get a non-professional trash carrier. Well, guess what? The non-professional trash carrier probably doesn't have general liability insurance, workers' comp. Now I got to dig into that. What's that going to cost me or him? Or is there a waiver? Is there somebody else? And it's just, something I didn't think about, but came up. Now I think about it. So that's what you're doing, is your stuff that you now thought about that you may not have. Some of it you learned from others, some of it you're learning in school of hard knocks, but it's still learning, right?
It's true. Always be learning.
Yes, man. Great. All right, Josh. Well, I appreciate your insights and your tips. Before we jump, anything else you want to share or say before we go? And if not, where can people find you?
Well, yeah, I mean, last thing I can really say is like expect the unexpected. I did mention briefly earlier about a eviction that just suddenly happened. This came out of nowhere, literally. So just 1 month, this past month, just no payment. Try to reach out, nothing. The father of the residents in there reaches out and said, I've been trying to get my daughter out of there for like the past month now. I even bought another house for her. She's not talking to me anymore, and her and her boyfriend are just in there. And now the other residents are complaining because they're doing all these sorts of things now. He also just like I'll sign over the home to you. It's like a 1960 home. I'll just sign it over to you if you want to do the eviction and just take care of it because I'm done with this. So yeah, he's like, oh, he doesn't even want anything for it. He just wants me to take it off his hands. Like, I'll give you this house for free. I'll sign over. I went to go to my notary and all that, and I actually have the title now in hand. Wow. And that's the weirdest thing that I've never even heard of other people coming across that, but apparently there's some sort of, you know, interfamily issues or whatever. I'm not going to get into that. It's not my business. But now I have a home, one park-owned home with a resident I now have to evict, which is why I'm glad I have that lawyer now, because he's working me through this whole process now. There's a lot of moving pieces. So yeah, so expect the unexpected because I had no idea that was going to happen, but it is, and now it's something I'm going to have to deal with.
Good advice. Yeah. And you'll have, next time you'll have 100 more of those. Unexpected.
Yeah, I'll be ready now. I'm taking notes of everything. I always write down a little journal and things. So yeah, that won't catch me by surprise anymore. But
all right, Joshua, good stuff. You want people to reach out to you? Where can they find you?
Yeah, I mean, I have my account in Bigger Pockets. It's pretty much my name, Joshua Diaz. Like you mentioned, LinkedIn is also there. Same thing. You'll be able to tell it's me because of the hair. Other than that, if people can reach out to my email if they want to, like, you know, get some more personal advice, or if they're doing something and they want, you know, second opinion, they can always reach out my email. It's jshleedz@gmail.com. Basically my full name, first, middle, last, put all together.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate it, Joshua. Have a good rest of the day. Thanks for coming on.
Hey, thank you for having me. I really appreciate this.
You got it.
All right, take care.
Bye now.